Just recap of the yesterday's class, that is computer fundamentals, that is computer organization. So any doubt? Hello, any doubt about the yesterday's class? Hello, Glenda.
Hello, I can hear you now.
Yeah, any doubt about the yesterday's class?
No, no problem. I think we can proceed with the schedule for today.
Okay, operating system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I muted you, and if there is any doubt, I can discuss with the at the end of the session. All right?
Okay.
So again, starting with the operating system, that is your OS, operating system. This chapter gives you a basic idea about the operating system, starting with the definition of operating system. This is the main concept. And that today's agenda, today's topics are, first of all, definition of the operating system. Means what is the definition of operating system? And the short form of operating system is OS, right? Then there are the functions of operating system. Means what are the functionalities that is provided by the operating system. Then there are different types of operating system that comes under the topic types of operating system. There are some services which are provided by the operating system which comes under the topic operating system services. Then there are some question answers we should discuss, right? So let's start for today's topic, that is operating system. First of all, this chapter gives you an basic idea about the operating system, starting with the definition of operating system and its functions. What are the functions available for operating system which OS, that is operating system, can provide? I just give you an overview of the operating system. As I told you, operating system is an intermediate between the user and the hardware. Means if I am the user, I am using the system, then there is a mandatory requirement for the operating system. So it behaves like a mediator between the user and the hardware. As the definition said, an operating system is an intermediary. Intermediary means mediator between users and the computer hardware. We are the users, and computer hardware means CPU, RAM, which is tangible in nature, is hardware. It provides users an environment, means it means operating system provides an environment, atmosphere, in which a user can execute programs conveniently and efficiently. Means with the help of an operating system, it provides an environment in which a user means you, me, and any type of user which is using the system can execute programs conveniently and efficiently, means in a proper manner, in an effective manner. So this is the main definition of the operating system. Another definition says, in technical terms, it is a software which manage hardware. Means it is a software. As I told you, software means which cannot be touched, that is intangible in nature, and hardware which is touched, that is tangible in nature. So operating system is not touched, it is a software which manage hardware. Means how to operate the system, how to use the system, how to use the hardware thing, that is done by the operating system. An operating system controls the allocation of resources. This line says allocation of resources. Let's take best example. Suppose CPU is executing 4 processing at the same time. There are different processes which is allocated to the CPU. Suppose CPU is allocated 4 processes and CPU needs to be executed all the 4 processes. So there is some requirement of the resources like CPU time. Resources includes also CPU time, and there are some basic pipelinings in CPU. All these things are required by the resource processes. So allocation of the resources means properly allocate different resources to different processes so that CPU cannot sit basically idle. Idle means cannot sit blank, means there is no work of the CPU. So allocation is done in such a manner that different processes can execute in a proper manner, in a priority manner, means which process comes first, get allocated the resources and executed. Another process come, gets allocated the resources and executed, and so on. So this line says operating system controls the allocation of resources and services such as memory, processor. As I told you, there are different resources like memory, processors, devices, information. So in simple terms, this definition said this is a software. This means operating system is a software which manages the hardware, and it also controls the allocation of resources as well as the services. For example, memory, processors, devices, information. Right. So this is just an overview of the operating system. Let's see the another definition. This is the main definition. An operating system is a program. Program means which is inbuilt into the computer. That acts means that behaves. Acts means behave like a interface. Interface means there is some comparison. There is some mediator which acts like a between the user and the hardware. So that acts as an interface between the user and the computer hardware and controls the execution of all kinds of programs. This definition simply said operating system is a mediator that behaves between the user and the hardware. Right. This is the main diagram, which is the main diagram of the operating system. There are different users like you, me, user 1, user 2, and there are n number of users, means any number of users. Then there is some hardware part which can be touched like CPU, RAM, input, output. So this is the hardware part, and operating system lies in between the user and the hardware. User here, hardware here. So operating system lies in between these. So this is the operating system. As this says, this is a software. Software includes operating system and the application software. Means system software and application software. So in simple terms, this diagram shows that operating system lies between the user and the hardware. Now let's see another slide. These are the following some important functions of an operating system. As I told you earlier, there are different topics. First topic is over, that is definition of operating system. Now comes to the another topic, that is functions of operating system. There are different functions which is discussed in detail, but on this slide there are different names which is performed by the operating system like memory management, processor management, device management, file management, security, control over system performances, job accounting, error detecting aids, coordination between other users and hardware. In simple terms, all the management is done by the operating system. Whether it may be memory, it may be processes, it may be devices, it may be files, any type of management is done by the operating system. As I told you in the earlier stage, that operating system is a mediator between the user and the hardware, and it is a basic element that controls overall operations of the computer. Now let's start with these functions in detail one by one. Alright. First of all, first function is memory management. Now what is memory? I told you yesterday, memory is a storage is used for storage purpose, where we can store the data. That is your memory. Management means how we can manage, how operating system can manage. So in simple terms, memory management means how to manage the memory in the computer system. That is memory management. Means management includes what are the different types of memories like RAM, ROM, which I told you yesterday, like primary memory, secondary memory. So which type of memory uses at what time, that is done by the operating system. Means whole management of the memory is done by the operating system. Clear? Now let's see line by line. Memory management refers to the management of primary memory or main memory. As I told you, it is the management of the memory. And main memory is a large array of words or byte where each word or byte has its own address. Main memory provides a fast storage that can be accessed directly by the CPU. So means these two lines discuss about the primary memory and the main memory. So for a program to be executed, it must be entered in the main memory. Operating system does the following activities for memory management. In simple terms, all the above tasks, that is memory management, includes the following activities. The first activity is keep tracks of primary memory, that is what part of it are in use by whom, means which person is using the primary memory, what part are not in use, means in simple terms which part is used and which part is not used is also decided by the operating system. Then next point is in multi-programming, OS, that is operating system, decides which process will get memory, when and how much. Means a multi-programming, first of all, this is a main concept. Multi-programming, as the name advice, multi, that is more than one. Program means any process in execution. So multi-programming means more than one program are executed at the same time. So it is the responsibility of the OS at that time only that decide which process, means which program will get memory, at what time and how much memory is required for that process. So this is the main responsibility of the OS. As this line said, in multi-programming, OS decides which process will get memory, when and how much. Right. Then third point is allocates the memory. As I told you, allocation means allocate the memory to different processes so that they can be executed in a proper manner. Allocates the memory when the process requests it to do so. Means allocation takes place with the help of the operating system, that is comes under the memory management. Last point says deallocates the memory. First of all, allocates the memory when process ramp down, means process turn is over and the process task is over, process work is done. Then there is a condition for deallocation the memory, and that is also done by the operating system. The last point said deallocates the memory when the process has no longer needs or it has been terminated. Means process is over or it is no longer need. Terminated means it is finished. So these four activities comes under the memory management that is performed by the operating system. I'm recalling these four tasks. First of all, it keeps tracks of the primary memory. It is used in multi-programming. It is used for allocating the memory. It is also used for deallocating the memory. Right. This is memory management. That is the first function of operating system. There are so many functions, but this is only the first question. First point basically. Then second point is processor management. Second function is processor management. In multi-programming environment, as I told you, multi-programming means more than one program is executed at the same time. OS, that is operating system, decides which process gets the processor, when and how much time. There are, as I told you, there are different processes and every process needs some processor. So it is the responsibility of the processor management to decide which process gets the processor at what time and how much time is required for that process for using the processor. Clear? So this is also known as the process scheduling, that comes under the processor management. Right? So these two lines are most important line in processor management. Next line says operating system does the following activities. These are the main points. In the same way which I discussed in the memory management, different points, different activities, in simple terms which we discussed in this paragraph are highlighted with the help of a point that is known as activities. So take up the first point. First point says Keeps track of the processor means it keeps track of which processor is used, and the status of process means what is the status, whether the process is in running stage, waiting stage, or the terminating stage. So it means processor management keeps track of the processor and the status of process, right? Programs are responsible for this task is known as traffic controller. So there is a term traffic controller that is used, basically that is responsible for processor management and keep track of the processors. Next point says allocates the processor. In memory management, we talk about the allocation of the memory and deallocation of the memory. In this processor management, we talk about the allocation of the processors. Allocation of processor means how to allocate and when to allocate different processors, that is CPU to a process. Process means a program in execution. Then deallocates processor when processor is not required. In the same way, when memory is not required, we can deallocate the memory. In the same scenario, in the same way, we can deallocate the processor when the processor is no longer required. So these are the basic three activities which is performed by the processor management. I'm recalling the three activities. First said it keep tracks, it means processor management keep tracks of the processors. Then it allocates the processors to a process. Last one says deallocates the processor when there is no requirement of the processor. So this is the second function that is performed by the operating system. First function is memory management, second function is processor management. Now let's see another process, another function basically, that is third point, that is device management. As the name advises, device means any device that is used for inputting and output. That is, it includes input devices and output devices. And management, as I told you, management means to manage. So device management means how to manage different input devices and the output devices, right? So let's see what is device management. OS manage device communication via their respective drivers. OS means operating system manage device communication via means through their respective drivers. Operating system does the following tasks for the device management. These are the four tasks, four activities that is performed by the operating system that comes under the device management. So first point says keeps tracks of all the devices. Keeps tracks means it device management keeps tracks of all the devices, that is input devices, output devices, when it is used, how it is used, for which duration it is used, what time it is used, when it is used, to whom it is used. So it keeps all the devices, tracks of all the devices. Program responsible for this task is known as input-output controller. As I told you, in the processor management there is a traffic controller. In the same way here there is a input-output controller. IO stands for input-output. Second point says decides which process gets the device, when and for how much. Then next point says allocates the device in the efficient way. Third point says allocates the device, means allocation of the input and output devices to different CPU, different processes, that is the allocation of the devices. Last is deallocation of the devices, means when there is no requirement of the device, there is a deallocation process that is also done by the device management. Clear? Now let's see another function, that is next function of the operating system, that is your file management. So this is the fourth function. We discussed already three functions, that is processor management, memory management and device management. So this is the fourth function, that is your file management. As a name advice, file means collection of records, management means how to manage. So if I combine both the terms, that is file management, that is how to manage the files in which data or records is stored. Management means how to manage, file means collection of records. So file management is how to manage the files in an efficient manner, that is file management. Clear? Now, definition says a file system is normally organized into directories for easy navigation and usage. File system means where we can put the records. These directories may contain files and other directories. Operating system does the following task for file management. These are four activities which is performed by the file management. As memory management performs some activities, processor management performs some activities, device management performs some activities. In the same way, file management also includes some activities for file management. Now let's see one by one. First one is keeps tracks of information, location, uses, status, etc. That is, it keeps track of next point says it decides who get the resources. It means file management decides who gets the resources at what time. Means which file is used at what time by what management is decided by the file management. Then there is a allocation of the resources. Allocation means how to allocate different resources to different files. Then deallocates the resources means how to deallocate the different resources that is already available to the different files. So in simple terms, these are the four activities that is provided by the file management. First of all, it keeps tracks of the information, then it decides who gets the resources, means which file gets the resources, then allocates the resources, and then at last deallocates the resources. So this is the fourth point of the operating system function, that is a file management. Clear? Now let's see different other activities. Means these are the four basic activities, functions. First is memory management, then process management, then device management, file management. And there are different other issues also, that is known as other important activities that is performed by the operating system. As this line said, following are some of the important activities that operating system does. First is one is security. Wow, security is most important feature, because without security your system is not secure. Anyone can hack your system in an efficient manner. Means unauthorized users can hack your system and your data is lost. So it is the main task of anyone to secure your system. Right, and this facility is also provided by the operating system. In this, it is said by means of password and similar other activities, preventing unauthorized access to programs and data. Unauthorized access means there is no authorization of access. Anyone can hack your data. That is your unauthorized access. So by means of the password and similar other techniques, with the help of operating system, we can control the unauthorized access to the programs and data. Right. Another activity says control over system performances. There are different performances, there are different criteria with the help of which different processes can execute, different jobs can be done, right? So control over system performances means recording delays between request for a services and response from the system. Means a request came, then there is a delay, and response goes, there is some delays. So it records overall performance of the activities. It means operating system records. Then there is another activity, that is your job accounting. It keeps track, it means operating system keeping track of time and resources used by various jobs and users. Right. Another task is error detecting ads. In simple terms, operating system is used for detecting the error messages, debugging, error detecting aids, any traces, anything which is done in the computer system, that is done by the operating system. So it means production of dumps, traces, error messages, and other debugging and error detecting aids. Then last activity is coordination between other software and users. Coordination means how to coordinate with different software. Let's example, if I'm using the Internet Explorer, Internet, and at the same time I'm using the MS Office, that is MS Word. So it is the coordination part that is provided by the operating system so that I can access both the applications, that is Internet and the Office, that is your MS Office, Microsoft Office, right? So coordination and assignment of compilers, interpreters, assembler, and other software to the various users of the computer system. So these are the other important activities, except the four activities, four functions, that is your memory management, processor management, device management, and your file management. So that four are most important, and these are the another essential activities which is performed by the operating system. Now let's see another topic, that is your types of operating system. As I discussed with you earlier, there are different categories, different topics which I discussed today, that is definition, then functions. Now next one is types of operating system. As the name advises, types means kinds, different categories of operating system. Operating system are there from the very first computer generation. Means when the computer start, from that onwards, operating system is in demand. Operating systems keeps evolving over the period of time, following a few of the important types of operating system which are most commonly used. Keep evolving over means there are different versions, there are different categories which came basically in earlier days, past days, and now there is a Windows 8, that is new version which is used the latest. Now let's see different categories of operating system. First of all is batch operating system. In simple terms, first point is batch operating system. As the name advises, batch, that means group. So if there is a requirement of the group, means more than one user is using the system, that is your batch operating system, that is in batch. The users of batch operating system do not interact with the computer directly. Each user prepares his job and on an offline device like punch card and submit it to the computer operator. In batch operating system, there is no device of the online. So there is only an offline device, and the computer users using their punch cards and submit to the computer operators. To speed up processing, jobs with similar needs are batched together. Means if I am using MS Office, I am using MS Word, and your requirement is also using for MS Word. So we are together using the batch operating system for doing that task, so that our task becomes easier and efficient, right? And runs as a group. Group means in more than one people are using the same operating system. Thus, the programmers left their programs with the operator. The operator then sorts program into batches. How it sorts, how operator sorts, by depending upon the similarities between different processes with similar requirement. Means in simple terms, there are different requirements. Requirements includes like I'm using MS Office, MS Word, you are using MS Word. Both the requirements are same. So the operator sorts the program in such a way that all the programs, all the batches contain similar requirements, similar programs. Now this is the batch operating system which is performed by the operating system, which is the main category of the operating system. The problems means the limitations which is available in the batch system are the following. First one is lack of interaction between the user and the job. Means there is no interaction between the user and the task which is currently in running process, currently in executing process. There is lack of interaction, there is lack of gap in the interaction. CPU is often idle because the speeds of the mechanical input-output devices, IO means input-output devices, are slower than the CPU. Sometimes CPU cannot get the device management properly, so CPU gets idle. So this is the main loss, and that's why we are not using the batch operating system, because there is some group and there are some tasks. So there is no one person that is using the system, so there is no requirement, there is no official requirement, so CPU is often idle. Last one is difficult to provide the desired property. Difficult to provide the desired property means which batch is to perform first, then another batch perform first, a second, third, and so on. It depends on the priority, and this is also the main limitation of the batch operating system. Clear? Now let's see another operating system category of operating system, that is your time sharing operating system. As a name advice, time sharing means many users, many group, many people uses the time, shares the time, like you and me shares the same time. You are also studying, I am teaching. So we share the time with the help of the operating system. That is the time sharing operating system. So you and me are the best example for using the time sharing operating system. Now let's see. Time sharing is a technique which enables many people located at various terminals. Means you are located at different country, I am located in different country. So these are located with various terminal. Terminal means computer. To use a particular computer system at the same time. So these are two basic lines. Means time sharing means multiple people can use the various system at the same time when they are far from each other. Means there is a distance gap between different users. Instead, they are using different operating systems. Time sharing or multitasking is a logical extension of multi-programming. Processes time which is shared among multiple users simultaneously is termed as time sharing. Means a processor time which is distributed among different users is simultaneously known as time sharing. The main difference between multi-program batch system and time sharing system is that in case of multi-program batch system, the objective is to maximize processor use. Means the basic task, basic motto is to maximize, is to utilize the processor in an efficient manner. Whereas in time sharing, the basic objective is to minimize the response time. Means there is no gap between the time. Like if I am saying something and you are saying something, so we are communicating, but there is no time gap. So the main motto, main task of time sharing operating system is to minimize the response time. Right. Next line says multiple jobs are executed by the CPU by switching between them, but the switches occur so frequently. Means if I am using MS Office and I am also using Internet Explorer, so there is some time gap, time sharing between when I toggle from, when I navigate, when I jump from one application to the another application. Therefore, thus, the user can receive an immediate response. Like if I'm saying you something, give me a feedback. Right. In the same way, users can receive an immediate response. For example, in a transaction processing, processor executes each and every processor executes each and every user program in a short burst or quantum of computation. Means it is used when a program is in a short burst when it is used, right? Now, let's see another operating system, another category, that is your, no. There are different advantages also for the time sharing operating system. Wow, that's so interesting. That is, if n users are present, each user can get time pointer. Means each user get some time allocation. Means that time is allocated to you, that time is allocated to me. So there are different time allocations. So when the user submits the command, the response time is in few seconds or at most. Operating system uses CPU scheduling. Scheduling means when to schedule which process, and multi-programming to provide each user with a small portion of a time. Computer systems that were designed primarily as a batch system has been modified to the time sharing system. So this paragraph differentiates between the multi-programming and the batch system and the time sharing system. Right. Now let's see what are the advantages of time sharing operating system. First advantage is provides advantage of quick response. Yes, if I'm saying something, you are saying something. So there is a quick response. So this is done by the time sharing operating system, and it is also one of the main advantages of time sharing operating system. Next advantage says avoids duplication of software. Means there is no duplication of software. If I'm using one software, you are using same software, so we can interact in with the help of a same software, with the help of a one software. Next point says, last point, reduce CPU idle time. Means CPU is not sitting idle when there is no work. As you are using the system, I am using the system. So CPU never left blank or idle. So these are the three main advantages of time sharing operating system, right? But if there is some pros, there are also some cons. So let's see what are the limitations, cons, or disadvantages of time sharing operating system. First one is problem of reliability. Means we cannot rely, we cannot trust whether it is applicable. Like if there is some disturbances in the noise, you are not getting my voice, there is some technical issues. So this is the main limitation of time sharing operating system. Then next point is question of security and integrity. This is the main point. Means security is very low in time sharing operating system. If I'm sharing with you something, and if there is a third party that is in between and it hacks my data, so my data is lost. So this is insecurity or less security that is available in the time sharing operating system, and it is one of the main limitation of the time sharing operating system. Then last one is problem of data communication. Means there is some gap, there is some problem in data communication. How we can share the data? Means if you are far from me at the longer distance, there is some technical issues, there is some low bandwidth. So that is the main problem of the data communication. So this is one of the main limitation of the time sharing operating system. So these are three limitations of time sharing operating system, and these three are advantages of operating system. Clear? Now let's see another operating system, that is your distributed operating system. As the name advises, distributed means same operating system is occupied or distributed by multiple users. Distributed systems uses multiple central processors to serve multiple real-time applications and multiple users. In simple terms, distributed system uses multiple, that is more than one, central processors. Central processor means that is common to the more than one person, to serve multiple real-time applications and multiple users. Data processing jobs are distributed among the processors accordingly to which one can perform each job more efficiently. Means these jobs are distributed in such a manner that these jobs or tasks are performed efficiently and effectively from one another. Right. So distributed operating system is simply the task or the process which is distributed among different parts, that is your distributed operating system. Next line says the processors communicate with one another through various communication lines such as high-speed buses or telephone lines. These are referred as loosely coupled system or distributed system. Means another name for distributed system is loosely coupled system. Processors in a distributed system may vary in size and functions. Means if I and you are using the operating system, same operating system, that is distributed operating system. So your system weight or size or functionality is different, and my system size functionality is different. So this line says processors in a distributed system, that is CPU in a distributed system, may vary in size and functions. Right. These processors are referred as sites, nodes, and computers, and so on. Means if I am using the distributed, means if there is single processor and that is distributed among different multiple users, in that case these processors are also known as sites, nodes, computer, and so on. The main advantages of distributed system are the following. Now let's see what are the main advantages, benefits of the operating system. Now let's see one by one. First point says with resource sharing facility, users can at one site may be able to use the resources available at another site. Like we are using the same link, we are using the same resource. You are getting these PPTs, you are getting these materials. So this is a resource sharing facility. You at one site may be able to use the resources available at my site. Means you are now seeing the screen that is available at my site. So this is the best example of the distributed system. Next one point says speed up the exchange of data. Like if you have any doubt, you can chat me. So this is the speeding up the exchange of data with one another via electronic mail, that is done by the email or the chat. So this is the main point, second point of the distributed operating system. Now next one. If one site fails in a distributed system, the remaining sites can potentially continue operating. The best example is right now. Joseph is not getting my voice, right? But Nelda is getting my voice. So Nelda and me can interact efficiently. If one of the sites, that is Joseph's system, never works or not working properly, so this does not mean that whole line is disturbed. Like Nelda and me can contact easily without the Joseph. So this point says if one site fails, another remaining site, that is Nelda and me, can potentially continue operating. Next point says better services to the customer. Next point says reduction of the load on the host computer. Means there is no main computer that is highly tired, or that is only the computer which accepts all the data. So there is no load on the main computer or the host computer. Right. Next, last point says reduction of delays in data processing. There is no delay in data processing. Like if I'm telling you something, you are getting, and if you have any doubts, you can contact me with the use of a chat or with the use of a voice. So there is no reduction of delays in data processing. Right. Now this is the distributed operating system, and there are different names of the processor, that is sites, nodes, and computer. Another operating system is network operating system. As a name advice, network operating system means there is some different network, and if we are using the network, that is done by the network operating system. Network operating system runs on a server and provides server the capability to manage data, users, group, security, applications, and other networking functions. Means with the help of the operating system, we can manage data, users, security, applications, and other networking functions. Clear? The main primary purpose of network operating system is to allow shared files and printer access among multiple computers. Like if I am sitting at my system and if I want a hard copy, that is printout material, I am giving command from my computer and printer is on the first floor. I am able to give the print command and able to get the hard copy because there is a printer sharing between my computer and the printer that is available on the first floor. So this is the main advantage, that we can share the different devices, hardware devices, with the help of a network operating system, because there is same network, means there are multiple computers which are connected with each other. So we can share the printers, file, anything with the help of the network operating system. Typically a local area network, that is your LAN. LAN is basically that is used in only one building within a local area, limited area. A private network or to the networks. Example of network operating system includes Windows Server 2003, 2008, Unix, Linux, OS X, Novel NetWare, and BSD. So these are the best example of the network operating system. Clear? So this is the main operating system, important operating system which we are using on a day-to-day basis. Now let's see what are the advantages of the network operating system, one by one. First one is centralized server are highly stable. Means if there is main computer, there is a main network. So that centralized servers are highly stable, highly efficient. Then security is server managed, means there is no loss of the security. Means data is never hacked by the unauthorized users. So this is the main advantage, that security is enabled in the network operating system. Next point says upgrades to the new technology and hardware can be easily integrated into the system. Means if there is some updation, so we can easily upgrade the system with the help of the network operating system. Last point says remote access to server is possible from different locations and the type of system. This is the main point. Remote access means if you are sitting at far distance from me and you can access my server, you can access my system, that is a remote access, and this facility is only provided by the network operating system. Right? These are the four basic advantages of network operating system. Like I said, if there are some pros, there are also some cons. So there are some limitations of network operating system which are as follows. First one is high cost of buying and running a server. Means there is high cost for purchasing and running a server. There are so many cables, so many tools required for getting the network operating system. Tools includes special tools, combo tools, clipboard, all these tools are available, and wires includes cat wire, coaxial cable, twisted pair cable. So there is so much expensive for purchasing these products. Then another point says dependency on a central location for most operations. If I'm using the system, you are fully dependent on my system. If my system hangs out, if there are some technical issues, so you are setting idle. So dependency is main limitation of the network operating system. Right. Last point said regular maintenance and updates are required. Means there is some regular maintenance that is required in the network operating system, like you have to update it, you have to upgrade, right? That is regular maintenance and update. Then there is a real-time operating system that we will discuss tomorrow. I think that's all for the day. It's too